Hi there. Today we're going to answer probably one of the most popular questions I get about Thermofax screens, and that is, how do I wash them out? A lot of people aren't really sure how to do it, and so I thought I'd do a little video showing you how I do it, so we can clear up any questions. And in all honesty, I don't use anything except tepid water. And tepid water, it leans more towards the warm side, if that makes any kind of sense. I never use hot water. And the thing to understand about Thermofax screens is that while they're pretty tough, they are not indestructible. They are made up of two layers, which you can actually feel this more than you can see it. The front side has more of a texture to it, and then the back side has the shiny side. And what happens when the screen gets made, the heat burns away the shiny side, and that's how you get the image in the screen. If you are hard on your screen when you're cleaning it, meaning you scrub really hard, or you use very strong chemicals on it to clean it, or you leave it soaking in a bucket overnight or for any length of time, those layers can start to separate. So it's important that you exercise some restraint and a little bit of gentleness. So I've been doing a lot of printing, getting some new stuff ready for the store, and I thought I would show you how I go about washing it. The first thing that I do, the number one thing that I do, is I never let the paint dry, as you can see from the mess I just made on the edge of my sink. And I fill up the sink with warm, tepid water, not hot, but it's got to have a little bit of heat because it kind of helps get the paint off. And then I put the screen in there. I like to use just a brush that is a regular sponge brush. You can use a regular sponge if you prefer, but if you notice, the way that I print with these brushes is I cut off the tips of them to make them more stable. Well, I don't do that with the brush that I wash the screens with, because I don't want any kind of anything that could scratch the screen. So it's in the water, and I just take the brush and I just I put my hand underneath it to give it some stability. You can permanently crease Thermofax screens, so you don't really want to, grab it and do this, because you can leave a fold in it. So I just go over it. With the brush, and you can see it's coming off just fine. This is the way I clean all of my screens, regardless of what I've been printing with. And by that, I mean I print with more than just paint. I use discharge paste, thicken dyes, water-based resist, puff paint, all that stuff. I wash them all out exactly the same, and the reason it works is because I don't let the stuff dry on the screen. So I don't have to worry about having to scrub real hard. So once I get it to this point, I pretty much don't want that getting everywhere. Let's just wipe that off. That's the nice thing about these paints, is they're water soluble, so they clean up really easy. I'll drain the water out of the sink and take a look at it. And then I give it another rinse, usually in cool water. And I'll just go use my hands now instead of the brush to kind of see if I see a spot that I missed. And that's pretty much it. You're going to notice sometimes that you'll have stains on your screen where it looks like there's, I don't know, hopefully you can see it, where it looks like there's leftover paint. It's pigment stain. Some of the stronger colors, that's what they tend to do. It does not mean that it will not come off on your next print. It's just a stain. Reds and metallics, for me, I found to be the absolute worst when it comes to that. But this is pretty much a dry screen. And what I like to do, as you can see from over here, is I lay paper towel down, and then I just set them down and let them air dry. And if I'm in a hurry, I will blot them with a paper towel, but I never scrub, I never fold, I never use any kind of harsh cleaners on them. I'm very gentle with them. And you'll notice that I'm using my bathroom sink, and ideally it would be better if you have a utility sink or a stainless steel sink to use something like that, but this poor guy has the unfortunate location in life of being right next to my studio, so he gets used all the time for that. I will tell you, my cleaner of choice to make sure that this, since these are water soluble, I never have any trouble cleaning up the sink. I don't get any stains or anything like that. But I do use Citrusol to clean the sink, and this stuff is kind of scary. It's so good. I mean, it takes adhesive off scissors, it takes stains out of anything, and it works like a charm. So there's other cleaners that are not as strong that you could use, but it's important to make sure that your sink is rinsed out so that you don't mess anything up, unless you're using a utility sink or a stainless and you're not really too concerned about it. I wanted to show you one of my older screens and what can happen if you're not very gentle with it. This was before basically when I first started out, and you can see I let some stuff dry on the screen and it hasn't completely come out. But the thing I want you to notice the most is how wrinkled this looks, and that's because I used to scrub really hard when I first started out. I didn't really know any better, and it's kind of tortured the screen a little bit. This still prints just fine. I can still get prints out of it, but basically what I've done is I've reduced the longevity of it by scrubbing so hard. All these little wrinkles and bubbles are the parts where the screen, the two layers, are starting to separate. So once I realized that that's what was happening, I started washing my screens the way I just showed you, and they stay nicer longer, and they're going to last me a lot longer. So don't be afraid, to give them a good wash. If you get stuff that's dried on the screen, it would probably be preferable to try to soak it for a little while instead of scrubbing. I've never really left my screens in water overnight. I will put them, like if I'm doing demos or classes, I will put them in a little bit of water just so stuff doesn't dry on them. But honestly, the longest I've ever leave them soak is probably about an hour. So I can say that after an hour they're still okay, but I don't know what will happen to them if you leave them overnight. It's something I could try and let you know how it comes out, but I don't recommend it just because you gotta be nice to these guys. They're pretty tough. They will last a long time, but they need proper care. The last thing I'm going to mention is that when I store my screens, I store them completely flat. You could also roll them like around a paper towel tube or a pool noodle or something of that sort, but don't fold them. Just take care of them, and you guys will be friends for a really long time. So that's all I got, and I hope that helps answer your question of how to wash them out, and happy printing!